Oh, well, I wasn't going to do one more, but I figured I'd start with this one. A little bit about your future governor candidate, people say. So, let me start off with I'm a military brat. So, my dad was in the military when I was younger. He was a naval. He was a blue nose, or above the Arctic Circle. Uh, and my mom, well, she was my mom. I was playing baseball. I was on the A and AB honor rolls, and I was one of the star players. With the fact that I could I was always up to number four to bat. And anyone that watches baseball, you know what the number four spot is. So it was my job. It was their job to get on the base. My job to bring them home. So that's kind of where it all started. And what ended up happening is my mom and dad divorced when I was younger. And I carried that with me for a long time. I blamed myself for years and years and years until I actually understood what it was that they did by going through a divorce myself. Then my mom and dad, when they split, my dad moved to California and my mom was in Florida. Well, I got to go visit my dad, be out with him. I think it was a year. It might have been just for the summer on that one. I know I stayed out here for a year with him when I was really young. But while my mom moved back to Alabama while I was in California, so I never got to say bye to any of my friends. I'd love to chase them down. Some of them, Chris, Eric, Jimmy, Gary. I remember the names. They were good friends. Anyway, Mom, she moved while I was out there visiting. And when I came back, it was to Alabama. Well, outside of my cousin Patrick, I really didn't know anybody. And I got to see my granddad, and I got to be around my grandmother a lot. My grandmother definitely helped raise me. So I have a lot of old traditional values. So from that point, I was doing decently. I mean, I did those first parts. I did kind of get AB on a roll and stuff like that. But the less my dad was around, the more I started acting up because my mom couldn't keep me under control. So somewhere in that time frame that I moved back to California for a year, and then I went back to Alabama again. I've moved probably, if you count within state and stuff like that, I've probably moved well over 30 times in my life. I'm definitely in double digits for sure. And then from that point, I would get in trouble a lot. A lot. I was approached when I first got to high school. When I was 7th or 8th grade, I mean, I hung out in the black community and stuff like that. I got arrested at elementary school. And yeah, they literally came to the elementary school and arrested me in the school. No parent around. So, yeah. Got in trouble a lot and caused a lot of problems. And that's the way it kind of continued. And when I was at school, I didn't care. I didn't care anymore. I got fed up with it. Schools were changing stuff and doing things, and it just, I didn't like school. I hated it. God, I hated it. But basically, that ended up kind of directing me down the path I was in, which was getting in trouble. A lot. Like, a lot. Like, my teenage years, everything from about 12 to 13, all the way up till right at 18, I was the worst. I would get in trouble with different drugs. I would, be in the wrong place at the wrong time. I was getting around the wrong people. I was making a lot of stupid choices. Tons. And understand, I'm giving you the shortened down version. But I had tons and tons of problems, and I was constantly in trouble. And anyway, that's what led me to becoming an ICP fan, a juggalo, if you must. And hanging out with actual ICP fans and juggalos like my friend Bookout. And I got to meet other ones out there and all the positive ones. So that, that was the one place where it didn't even matter your race or gender. We were all united under one. We were all juggalos, So Juggalos was kind of the place of the outcast, if you will. And then that's when I met my friend Bookout. And while I was still getting in trouble, he was helped kind of direct me on the right path of being a better person and doing what was right. So he was always kind of a father figure / big brother / he had a lot of influence into my life. So then when I got 18, and I'd keep in mind, I've been to boot camp, I've been to jail, I was in alternative school. I've literally been down the entire path. So when I hit 18 and I had just gotten in trouble, I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And quite frankly, a lot of my problems could be due to the cowardice I was showing back then. Because while I chose not to fight, and I didn't want to fight. I was all about peace and, doing things peacefully, and I never once would throw a fight, get in a fight or throw a punch back or anything. Like, I did everything I could to avoid fighting. And I stuck by that. So that's why you'll never see anything like that. And it was because my grandmother wanted me to do the right thing and be the bigger person. So it was due to that cowardice that I felt that, which is actually strength if you think about it. But it was cowardice because I wasn't standing up for what I believed in. And that was my mistake. So due to my, cowardice and my stupid mistakes, I made a lot of bad choices that put me in situations that caused me to get in trouble a lot. I was messing around with things and doing things I shouldn't have done. Literally, I think the only things I never messed with, if we looked at the drug environment, was LSDs, hallucinogens, like that. That was literally the only thing I never messed with. Everything else I did, and it was wrong. But I'm not going to sit here and say cannabis is a gateway drug, because it's not. I did it because my parents weren't around and I was getting in trouble. So don't fault something that actually has a good medical benefit. Just because some people want to keep money in their pocket. You're standing up against this vaccine and all that stuff, so you should know right now that they're trying to crush things like cannabis. They don't want that because they don't make no money. Well, they don't make no money. The cannabis industry in the state makes money. They just don't make money. So they have a big issue with that. Anyway, getting back to the point. The point of the matter is you know, I was smoking at like the age of 12, 13, something like that. And I smoked for years and years and years. I laid down cigarettes, cold turkey, didn't touch anything for almost 2 years. Started smoking cigars again, and then converted to hookah, and I still smoke hookah to this day, but I use the vape in between. But that's my choice. And see, here's where we get to the point. All the stuff I did, had I made better choices, would have been different, but I didn't. And I am accountable for my own actions. I don't need someone sitting there telling me, oh, you shouldn't say this or you shouldn't do that or any of that. No. What I say, I say. That's my words. And, there could be things taken out of context, but that's what they are. And I've just started standing up for what I believe is right. And that means if I have to go against people on my side, I will. If I have to go against people on the other side, I will. But whatever it is, we have to come to a neutral point and start standing together. But getting back to this brief description of my past history, I got in trouble and I went to county. And I was in county and they put me in the maximum security dorm. So I was in, I think, cell 9 or something like that. And literally right above me, I sat up most of the night talking to a guy that literally killed somebody. And he was telling me, dude, you got to start making different choices. You don't want to go down this path. It doesn't lead anywhere. This is what a guy that literally was in there for murder said to me. So I wish I would have remembered his name and stuff, but I screwed up my brain so much back then. It was, yeah. But that's the point. I had to become accountable and start taking accountability for my actions. Then I was almost killed. I got split with the back up here, right around that area. Laid part of a hatchet twice to the back of the head. They literally tried to kill me. People that claim to be ICP fans and juggalos tried to literally kill me. Because I was hanging out with people that pointed the finger at me. Which means they either one of them knew something. One of them knew something. One of them did something. And you know what? It's whatever. I put myself in that situation by taking them over there and introducing them. I put myself in that situation. Not somebody else. That was my mistake. So, yeah, that's where that came into play. And, you know, you got to be accountable. You got to be accountable. I am starting to take ownership of all my faults and everything I did. I wasn't the perfect kid. And, you know, when I was a teenager, I'll dip back a little bit again. I moved out with my dad and my stepmom. She told me if I did my homework, I could go outside. I was excited. Go outside, kick it with my friends. Hell yeah, I was down for that. Go hang out with Joey and Julie and all them from El Toro High. Yeah, I loved it. Anyway, I finished up my homework. I was about to go outside. My stepmom got in my way. So I said, what the hell? And she's like, well, you got to do your chores. And I'm like, the shit is this? You told me if I did my homework, I could go out. And she was like, no, you got to do your chores. So I said, screw that, I'm going out. So I went to the patio and I was going to jump off the second story balcony. I've jumped from higher. So I was going to jump from the balcony down and, go outside. When I started climbing up, she grabbed me by the shirt, pulled me down. So that pissed me off. I turned around and I just shoved her back and walked out the door. And when I got back, my dad and stepmom had argued, and my dad sent me back to Alabama that next day, back up into the hood and all that stuff I was getting in trouble with and stuff. So basically, my dad ended up taking my stepmom's side. And trust me, I stopped speaking to my dad for years, beyond as many years. But it was because I didn't understand. And I also didn't have accountability for my own actions. I put myself in that circumstance. I could have just did the simple chore and been on my way. I could have done the dishes and been on my way. But I hate dishes, so... And I can tell you right now, if I ever do get with someone, don't ever ask me to do a single freaking dish. It's not going to happen. I will buy paper plates and use those first. I hate dishes, and it's because of this incident. Anyway. I basically got sent back and I stopped speaking to him, so... a long time I faulted him and all that. And, of course, it brought back the memories of when my mom and dad split and me faulting myself. So I got to a point where I just didn't care if I lived or died. I mean, I was destroyed. And if it wouldn't have been for my friend Bookout, I probably wouldn't have even made it through those times. And all the juggalos that I hung out with. If it hadn't been for them giving me kind of a family environment and community, I probably would have ended up in a much worse situation. So I will defend that. You can bet your tail on that. They got their wrongs and there's some bad people in it. I get it, but you also got rid of the good people when you threw them on the gang list. So just saying. So now I'm going to jump back up to when I had 18. I moved back out here to California because I was in danger of making a mistake and going the wrong direction. So for God knows how many years, I basically was a bum. I stayed around. I did nothing. I didn't care. I was going to midnight movie showings. I was playing, video games. I was dominant in City of Heroes. Man, I would dominate. I had the best mastermind on Guardian server. Period. No, the only one that had a chance against me was a guy named Lord Death. He's a good friend of mine. And I have the PvP champion title, so I owned it. But getting to the point, I did nothing for that long amount of time, and I was going to midnights all the time. So, what ended up happening is that's where I ended up meeting my ex. And when she came into my life and she had all her hurts and pains from stuff she went through, yeah, she was actually, she had her problems that she went through, and I'm not going to talk about them as much as I would love to. I'm just going to say she had her problems. If she ever wants to talk about them, that's up to her. But like I said, she's an introvert and she doesn't want to be messed with, so please, anybody, leave her alone. She's a good person. Let her be. Anyway, uh, she helped me see the good inside myself. Kind of helped me realize that I could be more and be better. So how to put it? I started working. She helped me get a job working cleaning theaters. And once I started working, I put in enough time to get the government help through workforce development. Became a truck driver. And I did that for about a year or two till I helped her get her CDL. Now we were truck driving together. By the way, I don't advise couples to drive together, just personally, because unless you're taking proper time apart, in other words, like separate showers and stuff like that, unless you're getting time apart, that will destroy your marriage. Period. Period. Because you're in a confined space with someone, and being around someone 24/7, you damn near want to kill that person. So you got to take proper time apart. But anyway, we went through a lot. We had three marriage counselors, and of course the problem was every time they literally, the third one, I literally had put the focus on me first because I didn't want to turn her away. But the second that they would turn to her, she would just shut it out. And so, but that's okay. That's okay. I get it. She has her own life and her own choices, and I'm always going to love her. You never unlove someone. And I'm always going to hope the best for her. She's a great woman. And I don't want nobody to mess with her. Period. Period. If anyone comes after me in my campaign, make it about me, make it about my team, about my campaign. Do not mess with any of my relatives. I'm not going to mess with yours, so don't mess with mine. So, anyway. Multiple different things just happened, and we ended up separating, and we don't really talk much anymore, but it's okay. I've kind of accepted it because 2020 was the disaster year for me. So we were already going through a lot in 2019, and that was already rough enough as it was. But then when 2020 hit, started off with me, I got sick for about 3-4 days, which I believe I actually had caught COVID because I think they gave me hydrochloroquine, if I remember correct. And so what ended up happening is I had to take 2 weeks off because of what was being put out. So my pay took a pay cut. So we kind of fell behind a little. And then, of course, I got back working, and then the company had to do cuts because economically they couldn't support it. So they cut 3 people from every branch. I was one of the ones that got cut. So now I was on unemployment. And while the unemployment was very nice at that time, sitting around doing nothing, I have fibromyalgia. That was destroying my body. I was in pain literally all the time. And I tried three different medications, none of which worked. And they literally told me the next thing they would have to give me would have been Norco. So you tell me. Anyway, so I decided, okay, well, shit. We're falling behind on things. I had a bankruptcy. And of course, the bankruptcy didn't give a shit, by the way. There was no protection for bankruptcy people. Then, yeah, me and her, we just got in a fight. She went and sent the paperwork in, and I said, all right, well, if we're not going to be married, then I'm going to have to move. And I got my car fitted with a trailer hitch. I rented a trailer, and I moved back to California. And for a long time, when I was back out here, a few months, I had contemplated honestly taking my own life. I mean, I was to that point. I just lost my wife. I had just lost my house that I was paying on, lost my job. I had an issue with my career. So, of course, I had to I dumped my CDL. I mean, I was taking things for the pain that I had. I did actually have a prescription for it, but I didn't take into account the time frame. So, yeah. And I got back onto that stuff, so I was taking it for the fibromyalgia pain, and it caused me to mess up on a piss test. So, of course, I was working on fixing it, but then because I was sitting at home all the time thinking, I got to thinking about how much I hated truck driving. Absolutely hated it. So, I decided, you know what? Screw it. I'm dumping it. I don't want my CDL no more. I'm sick of driving around in my personal vehicle knowing I could get a truck driver size ticket. So, I was going to help Blexit and stuff like that. So a lot of the Blexit people, they were talking to me, kind of helping me work through things. I love them. I miss Josh and Callie. They're wonderful. Yeah. Anyway. So I went from that and all that, and I was driving home one day, and I seriously thought about driving off the pass. And then a thought had popped into my head about my cat. And the fact that I'm the only person that she likes. So when I thought about that, I said, I can't do that to her. So I was sitting at home. I was crying. I was hurt. I didn't know what the hell to do anymore. God had spoke to me, and he started laying a path before me. That's when I went to my church, the Gate Church, Pastor Randy, and went over there, talked to him, and I sat and talked with him for a good 2 hours, something like that. So it was long. It was an hour at least. And he really helped me a lot, so I started going back to church. Then what ended up happening, ended up getting baptized, and I started getting my charity going. Uh, and then I started seeing what was going on in the political world. It started, I was already watching it because of people like Tatum and stuff. And that, honestly, Brandon Tatum is a huge part of why I'm so accountable now, because he's the one that taught me about being accountable for your actions. Be accountable for your actions, not someone else's. You got to be accountable for yours. That's what Brandon Tatum taught me. So you sit down, you think about all that different stuff. You think about all that, and God laid out the path for me. And then next thing I knew, I seen what was going on with this vaccine. And with me already knowing enough about vaccines and how they work and they're made, I said, well, shit, let me check on some of this stuff and talk to people. I was going to rallies all the time and getting out there, throwing out a bunch of ideas. And then they decided they were going to attack our military. Now, like I said, granted, the military takes like 30 different things. The military, and granted, I don't think they should have faced any kind of repercussions or, all that different stuff. But the big thing that upset me is when they publicized it. And I had always told God, I said, if they ever mess with our military again, I'm going to jump in the race. And that's what ended up happening. And when, God kind of talked to me and kind of gave me a path of what I got to do. And that's looking at myself and embracing who I am and stay the course to who I am, but just running. Just being the person He made me to be. So I started looking at everything that makes me who I am and the stuff that people do like about me. And said, you know what? Why am I discrediting myself so much? And understand, when I hit 18, that whole cowardice thing, like I was telling you about, and all that stuff, back when I was at attack, that all went the window. Once I got out here to California, I really started standing up. And it hasn't been but about the past 2-3 years that I've been verbal with my standing up. So I've always stood up, but it's always been more of a defensive measure, like I'm standing my ground. I am not budging, kind of standing up. But never one where I've gotten verbal and really got out there and was like, this is what the hell I'm going to be fighting. This is what I'm going to be doing. So I've never really been that kind of standing up kind of guy until recently, especially after the recall. So we went through there's people went through all the process to get this recall to happen, which means definitely there was enough to get rid of him. And I was on a campaign team, and I was working with campaign teams. And I met Derek, of course. And after what happened in the recall, I said, wait the hell a second. What the hell's going on? I'm like, we had every basic form of candidate covering, and the only one that made any kind of progress was Larry Elder. And that was because of the name. Why did 30-something%, at least this is what I've heard, 30-something% didn't even pick a damn candidate? It's because there's no candidates that the people can trust in and believe in. So then I got to thinking about me again. and what really made me go to the decision to decide I was going to run. All the people around me had said, you know what, you should run. And they were trying to get me to run in the recall. All the different, people I got to, know and meet, and all the different ones telling me I should consider running. And granted, a lot of them did say for a smaller office, but a few of them said for the governor's spot. Given what's going on right now and examining the situation, I think the governor's spot's the best position right now for me to run for. Because right now, we've got a lot of division. Which means we need somebody from both sides. Somebody that can look at both sides fairly. And I've always been good at standing up for others, but not for myself. Every time I try to stand up for myself, I fail. But when I stand up and fight for others, I succeed. So that's why I decided I'm the candidate for this. And the reason is because I am familiar with both sides. I am willing to come to the table. Something none of the other candidates can sit there and say, yeah, there's a couple of candidates mentioned they'd come to the table, but none of them that were literally willing to come to the table and actually bring the real solutions to the real problems going on to all the different sides. Like, they were going to sit down with political leaders of the other side. No, I'm sitting down with the people. The people. The people of this country. I'll sit with a politician, but odds are they're going to have to go through the people I'm going to have on my team before they could even make it to me. There's a few politicians that'll have immediate direct access. Derek Gates is one of them. But, they'll be on my list of people that I'm supporting that'll have a better chance of reaching me when I become governor. So, but I'm fighting for the people. I have a team that can do the work I need to get done. But I'm fighting for the people. Everybody, all sides. Which means some sides have to give a little and some sides have to give a little. We have to come to agreement. There has to be a center ground somewhere. I will find that center ground. I will find it. My idea is at least gets us close to the center ground. We just got to modify things a little bit. But it's close. And that's a starting point. I'm going to save this state. And I only ask you for one term. Give me at least one term. I prefer two, but give me at least one. If after one you don't like it, vote me out. You can always recall me too. So, and trust me, like I've said in a previous video, if you think the recall is going to stay if Gavin wins, yeah, I can tell you right now, Gavin's going to be finding a way to get rid of the recalling. So, just saying, what do you have to lose? What do you have to lose? Right now, all the other candidates are all preaching pretty much the same stuff. It's the same thing every time from every one of the candidates, minus a few word differences. And a lot of it's pretty. But how many of them do you see talking about the bad stuff? I think only one. That's the only reason I have respect for Chimino. Chimino's the only candidate that I think has enough capability to run. But none of the other candidates match. And, even if I don't get Trump's endorsement, I'm still fighting for the people. I'm fighting for the people. Well, don't get me wrong. And I want the left to understand. Yes, I'm a Trump supporter. Yes, I like Trump. Yes, I endorse Trump. Yes, if Trump endorses me, I'll take that endorsement. But that's my choice. You have your own choice. You don't have to like him. But don't let that affect what you think about me, because I'm the one that's bringing answers. So think about that. Which one do you want more? Answers and solutions? Or the other side? Division. We can disagree on things, but those are insignificant to the real problems. You know it, and I know it. This is all stuff that can be debated. So, all right. Well, I think this is the best brief video I can give about myself. I could have went longer. Trust me, if I went into details, this theme would be 2-3 hours long. So, trust me, if they ever ask me about a book thing, they're going to hate it, because the thing's going to come out looking the size of an encyclopedia. So, well, thank you and have a good one. Let's make this country and state better. Have a good day.